Okay, so I've had a lot of inquiries over the years on how I secure my tombstones in the ground so that they don't blow over. And today we had an incredible amount of wind and people were posting that their tombstones were breaking or going flying. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to sort of go over the method that I use, which is not necessarily better than anybody else's, but it's what I do and they're always very secure. So I've got another tombstone here that I'm working on. This one's a little bit thicker. It's a 2-inch foam sandwiched with a 1-inch piece, so it's 3 inches thick. And I've already pre-cut a piece of plywood. It's just whatever scrap I had around. I think this is 1/2 inch or 3/8. And I've marked in, I don't know if you can see that, but I marked in where I want the tombstone to go and where the 2-inch piece was, because that's the thickest part. I don't want my nails that I'm going to be driving in to go up into the seam in between the 1-inch and the 2-inch and force it apart. So I marked that and I've drilled a number of holes. I've got 2 holes that are, I don't know if you can see them, they'll go right up into the inside of the tombstone, and I actually drive those spikes in from underneath. And they form a really good physical reinforcement and support for the tombstone, in addition to all the construction adhesive that you put on. So you're not relying on the adhesive alone to hold it all together. The other holes is I put 2 at the back and 1 at the front, and those, when I go to mount it, the spikes actually get hammered down into the ground. And then the base, it gets all painted gray, as you'll see, and it holds it really securely. So the first thing that I would do is, like I said, I've marked on where the tombstone is going to be. And so I need to position it, and I need to mark where those holes are on the bottom of the tombstone so that I can drive my spikes at least halfway in order to get the holes and make sure they're going in straight. You don't want a spike coming out the front of the tombstone. And for spikes, I really do mean spikes. This is what I use. This is a 9-inch construction nail, and I'm going to be driving 2 of those, as you can see, a long way up into the base of the inside of the tombstone. And then as well, those are what got driven down into the ground. So once it's secure, the wind can blow, it's not coming over. So let me drive those nails and I'll come right back. So I've driven the nails, and what I did is I drove them into the top of the foam through the plywood. I've marked out where they are, and I drove them right down into the foam, making sure they go straight, probably about halfway. You don't want to drive them all the way, you'll never really get them out. So I pulled them back out again. So now I got 2 deep holes going all the way down, and they match up with the holes on my base of the plywood. So now I'm going to use construction adhesive. What I like to use is the Lepage's No More Nails. I'm not getting kickbacks, I wish. And it's safe for foam board. There's some other construction adhesives which will actually melt the foam board over time, and you don't want that. So you throw it into your caulking gun. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to stick this right in here, and I fill that all the way up. It's like a jelly donut. And then you put lots of adhesive. All over the base. Okay, now I've got my nails. I know where those holes are. Okay. Match that up with that, making sure that that's the front. I can tell the front because I only have 1 hole on the front versus the 2 mounting holes on the back, so that's an easy way to tell. You don't really need 4 holes all the way around for something like this. That's that, and then you push these all the way in. And I'm actually going to get a hammer and pound those in. I'll be back in a moment. All right, so I took a hammer, drove the nails all the way down. So now the base is attached to the tombstone. Now there's a big gap here, so I'm going to be filling that with construction adhesive. That's not a problem. As you noticed, or you might notice, that I went in a little bit crooked and a bit of foam popped out at the end where the nails started to come through. It's right at the very end when I drove it through, and the main thing is it didn't come through the front, so I don't really care. I'll fill it, paint it, nobody will ever know. Well, everyone will know, but you know. Okay, found the caulking gun. And so what I've got a fairly large gap. It is secure as it is right now, but you don't want water getting in there. It's not going to damage the foam, but eventually it will, you know, degrade the plywood if water's allowed to sort of collect there. And you want as good a joint as possible. So I just run a nice bead of construction adhesive, trying to force the glue as far under there as you can and fill that gap. I've used construction adhesive as gap filler, and it shrinks a little bit, but it's pretty good. Then I'm going to run my finger around there and just smooth that out. And force more of that glue down into the gap. I can always go back later and fill it into some more. I don't like to use the spackling. Depending on what you use, it may or may not be waterproof. I know that the glue is waterproof once it dries, and I'm not going to have a problem with it. Paper towels, always handy. And I'll do the same thing on the back. But as you can see, that filled the gap nicely. Okay. This is a Tombstone, one of the very first ones that I built, I think back in 2005 maybe. And I had it on my yard for a long time, wanted to build some new ones, didn't really have room, so I actually sold it to a fellow haunter, Chris Ainsworth. He's had it on his yard. And when we were setting up this year, I looked at it when he took it out of storage and realized that it had come loose from the base. This part is all very secure, but this has come loose, and you can see that this is the liquid nails. This is because this is one of the early tombstones I built, I was using the liquid nails adhesive, which obviously held up, you know, for a good long time, but eventually dried out and broke down. These are the spikes. There's two of them. These are the spikes that were going up into the tombstone, like I talked about. And so all that's basically happened is the glue's dried out and it's come loose over time. So I'm just gonna glue it back together and it'll be good for another 10 years. Okay, so the first thing again I'm gonna do is I already have the holes because this is from a previous tombstone, or you know, it's a repair job rather than building it up from scratch. So I already have the holes. I know which is the front because it's only got one hole versus the two. And so I'm gonna fill these holes again with construction adhesive, which will make these secure again where they came loose. So we can line this up with the holes. You know where those are. Okay, I got the holes lined up. So just put it down. Push that right down into position. Like I said, the rest of it is really still strong and secure. I don't need to worry about it. You know, this hasn't come apart or anything like that. It's just really the base. So already that feels a lot stronger. I'm gonna take my caulking gun and I'm gonna go again. If you can just see it. I'm gonna take caulking gun and I'll run a bead all the way around, smooth it in and fill up that gap, and then we're ready to go for another Halloween. Okay, we successfully repaired this, put all new adhesive, secured the spikes that go up into it. You can sort of see the spikes there. It never really sits 100% level on pavement, you know, sort of wobbles a little bit, but you know, when you put it on the grass and spike it in, never have a problem. You never even notice it. Doesn't look that great right now with the white, But once that dries, I'll throw a little bit of paint down there and touch up the base and any damaged spots, and it'll be good as new. So there you go. That is how I secure my tombstones. I should note, once they are in the yard and they're secured, you don't want to pull up just on the tombstone because it will rip right off the base. So you want to be able to get your fingers down, and normally with the grass there's a bit of give, so you can get your fingers down underneath the base and you sort of wobble it up and lift it up on one side, lift it up on the other side, and eventually it'll work its way out and you can pull it right out and pull the spikes out. I have had it where you drive the spike in and it's gone into a tree root or lodged between some rocks, and then you have to get the claw hammer and underneath the plywood, and you just sort of keep on working at it, and then eventually it will lift. But the tombstone itself won't be damaged. So that's all there is to it. Okay, hope that helps.